So technology is both an opportunity and a risk factor for child sexual abuse and exploitation.
What is the main difference between the countries that has high scores in the index and those who has low scores in the index?
Yeah, so we have a very diverse set of countries in the index. We have 60 countries now in total, across region, across income level, everyone from Saudi Arabia to Ethiopia to Thailand to Sweden. So of course it's an index, so at the very end you have a ranking table, top to bottom. So some countries do better than other countries. But I think a couple of things really stand out from this index versus other ones that we've done. The first is that even the top performers don't do particularly well. So if you look at the top 5 or top 10 countries, their scores out of 100 aren't very high. So even top performers have lots to improve on. But there are some ingredients you can see very clearly that are common amongst top performers. The first is income level. So the top 10 countries in the index are high income countries. Now, interestingly, for all the indexes that we do, we always do a correlation between income level and performance. And while income level does help performance in this index, it's actually a pretty weak relationship versus other indexes. The way it helps is mainly it gives countries the resources for things like dedicated law enforcement units. So having that resources is important. But actually looking away from income level, there are some other common ingredients that are common across all countries that do well, whether they're rich or lower income or medium income. One is having a very clear national plan that different stakeholders buy into. It's impossible for a government body or a company or an NGO to tackle this issue in isolation. So having a national plan that all stakeholders buy into is critical. The second, I would say, is strong civil society involvement. So across all the countries that do well, rich or poor, you'll typically see several strong CSOs, civil society organizations, perhaps working with victims, perhaps working with offenders, doing different things. Then a final ingredient, I think, is probably around technology. So technology is both an opportunity and a risk factor for child sexual abuse and exploitation. And I think countries that have recognized that more quickly and perhaps put in place legislation around online grooming, perhaps worked more closely with the technology industry itself to engage them on a response, they also tend to do better. So they're the 3 ingredients, I think, outside of income level that have been most common amongst top performers.
Which factor is the most important to drive change?
So the index measures 4 overall categories. One is the environment in which abuse takes place. One is the legal framework. One is the government's own commitments and capacity and enforcement. And then the final one is engagement with the media, with industry, and with NGOs and civil society. So it is very hard for a country to do well overall unless it does well across all 4 categories. Even though the categories are weighted slightly differently, you have to do well across all 4 to do well. But I think the one common ingredient that is really critical to doing well is that cross-sectoral collaboration. It's very, very hard to really have ambitious goals and policies, and certainly very hard to enforce them unless you're working very, very closely across the private sector, NGOs, civil society, and regulators.